This is episode 99 of That Shakespeare Life. This episode is brought to you in part by Audio Shakespeare Pronunciation App, the only audio Shakespeare pronunciation app which is designed to remove fears about how to speak Shakespeare's language so that his plays are accessible to everyone. Find out more about this app in today's show notes and stay tuned after the episode for how you can learn more.
Hi, I'm Catherine Loomis, author of The Death of Elizabeth I, Remembering and Reconstructing the Virgin Queen. Another great method for studying the life of William Shakespeare includes listening to this. It's That Shakespeare Life with my friend Cassidy Cash.
Certainly by the time Shakespeare was writing, the Tudor vermin laws, Tudor being Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, had come into play. We think it is because more and more people were living in towns and cities. There had been a series of bad harvests. The spectre of famine was very real. And anything which threatened the growing population's food supply was very unpopular indeed.
Welcome to That Shakespeare Life with Cassidy Cash. Cassidy believes that if you desire to successfully learn or perform Shakespeare's plays, then understanding the real life and history of William Shakespeare himself is a must. That Shakespeare Life is the podcast that helps you go beyond the curtain of some of Shakespeare's most iconic works and explore the world of early modern England as Shakespeare would have lived it, learning from the writers, historians, and performers who know it best. And now, here's Cassidy.
Shakespeare mentions red kites 7 times in his plays. He calls them kites, often using the term to reference specific attributes of the bird to describe someone in his story. He'll refer to someone as a kite as if that's bad, or other times he'll use the bird or the 16th century reputation of that bird to suggest attributes like suspicion. In Henry VI, Part 2, he says, although the kite soar with unbloodiebeak, with a question mark, like we're supposed to know that means suspicion. In the late 15th century, the King of Scotland decreed kites should be killed whenever possible, and that perspective on kites contrasted starkly with the later role of this unique bird in England, when kites were protected as an asset to London because they ate the vermin that spread diseases like plague. This protection was short-lived, however, and by the Tudor period, kites were again regarded as a nuisance to rural farm communities in England and Scotland. There are even surviving records showing that bounties were paid for the carcasses of red kites, as many people sought their extermination, thinking they were pests. We can see this negative perspective on kites show up in Shakespeare's plays, as every reference to kites in the works of William Shakespeare are derogatory. As we explore the role on stage and in life of the persistent kite, as well as to challenge some of the assumptions from Shakespeare's lifetime about what the red kite really is and isn't, our guest this week is an expert on red kites. We welcome Lynn Bowser. She's the co-owner of Argaty Red Kites, which is Central Scotland's only red kite feeding station. They're working to rejuvenate the population of red kites in the UK by challenging some of the very reputations that Shakespeare wrote about in his plays. Before we talk with Lynn today about the history of red kites in the UK, I want to quickly tell you that you can now go one step further from reading and listening about the history of William Shakespeare to truly experiencing his history. I have just launched an entire set of digital history activity kits that take a piece of Shakespeare's history and let you experience it for yourself. You can learn how to play games like Naughty, the card game. We also go over how to fly a falcon, how to make marchpane, how to cook your own Shrewsbury cakes, and more. Each kit comes with a history ebook all about the backstory of that kit's topic, along with a video tutorial from me explaining how to do the activity. It includes a full set of instructions and a supply list, and the best part is that you also get a full resource kit inside your package. While each kit is designed to be able to do it from home with a few items from your local market or store, so you don't need specialty items to do it. But if you want to go full throttle and get the authentic history gear for each activity, I provide you with not only a list of places to get those items, but several vendors have partnered with us on these kits to extend you exclusive coupons to their products not available anywhere else. There's 2 levels of kits available, one for the beginner and one for the hardcore enthusiast, and I know you will enjoy both. Find out more about these kits and choose your first Experience Shakespeare kit at casticash.com/experience. Lynn Bowser holds a degree in English literature and studied at Oxford for a few years before moving to Scotland with her husband to take over the family farm. In 1996, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, UK's bird protection charity, started the second phase of the red kite reintroduction in the area. And so the Argaty Red Kite project was born. Lynn and her family became strong advocates for this species and are now running a successful viewing facility for people to see and learn about these magnificent birds. Lynn joins us today to share with us the unique history of red kites and Shakespeare's opinion of them, as well as to let us know a few things Shakespeare actually got wrong about the bird. This conversation will help us better understand what Shakespeare was referring to when he invokes the reputation of the red kite in his plays. Hello, Lynn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be with you.
Are red kites native to Scotland and England?
Yes, they are. You get red kites the world over of different sorts, but the red kite is a European bird, and it's the only kite that we find in the UK. And it doesn't migrate. It's here all year round.
Was there a difference in reputation between Scotland and England? I mean, being from the United States myself, we don't have these birds at all. So if I wasn't studying Shakespeare and asking questions about the kite, I really wouldn't have known about this. And when I looked into the history, there seemed to be a little bit of a difference between your opinion on the level of nuisance that the bird was, depending on if you were in Scotland or if you were in England during Shakespeare's lifetime.
Well, I think the first thing to say is that the red kite is certainly the bird that Shakespeare would have known. Of course, he was an Englishman. In medieval times, in Scotland, they were persecuted. James II of Scotland put out vermin laws to rid Scotland of anything that they considered vermin. At the same time, in England, kites were protected. By royal decree, they were protected because they did a great job of cleaning up the filthy medieval streets. And if you think back, it's the time of the Black Death, it's the time of plague, and anything that helped to keep those towns and cities cleaner was very welcome indeed. So yes, in medieval times, there was a huge difference in perception.
Had that carried over? Like when William Shakespeare, in his plays, there are almost no positive references to the kite.
No, indeed.
He uses it very negatively. Did this opinion of them being vermin kind of come over from Scotland? Had they stopped seeing them as plague-ridding assets by the time Shakespeare was writing?
Certainly by the time Shakespeare was writing, the Tudor vermin laws, Tudor being Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, had come into play. We think it is because more and more people were living in towns and cities. There had been a series of bad harvests. The spectre of famine was very real. And anything which threatened the growing population's food supply was very unpopular indeed. I think it's fair to say that probably there was a divide between city, town and city, and countryside. I think they were always unpopular in the countryside, but in towns and cities they had been more popular because of this cleaning up that they did. But certainly by Shakespeare's lifetime, kites were not popular at all. I think they threatened things like rabbits, which were very much a staple of people's diets. And as I say, it needs must. You've got to get rid of things in order to protect people's food supply. So yes, by the time Shakespeare is around, kites have become a byword for greedy, rapacious creatures, and by metaphor extension to people who behave like that.
Shakespeare uses the phrase, quote, kite with an unbloodied beak, end quote, as a sign of suspicion in Henry VI, Part 2. Why was that a good way to communicate suspicion specifically? Was the kite supposed to have a bloody beak?
Well, yes, kites are carrion eaters, mainly. I think we're probably going to discuss a little bit more about this later in the interview. But yes, they eat meat. They don't necessarily kill it, but they eat meat. And I think that the point of that description is that you would expect that if a bird or an animal had killed another bird or animal, that it would be covered in blood. It isn't, which is a bit strange, but anybody with an ounce of common sense would know that that bird was the killer. Actually, this is interesting because wouldn't have been true. The kite would not have killed another large animal. But in metaphor terms, what he's trying to express is that, it hasn't been covered in blood, but it's the killer, isn't it? And that's where it comes from.
Despite being both loved and hated, depending on where they were being used, whether town or countryside, they are quite elegant in flight. Lynn, would you describe what the red kite looks like visually?
It's a big bird. It has a wingspan of about 150 centimeters. I don't know whether in the US you use centimeters or you use feet and inches. Tell me.
We use feet and inches. So...
Okay, well, a 5-foot wingspan then. So
Thanks.
It's a big bird. It has beautiful markings. It has a russet chest. That's why it's called a red kite. It has a russet chest, black wingtips, and white markings on the underside of its wings. It has a silver head, a silver eye, and the absolute telltale identifier is that it has a forked tail. There is no other bird in the UK of that size that has a forked tail, and it is a very, very acrobatic flyer. It uses that tail like a rudder and as it dives to snatch its food. They very seldom land, so they're usually in flight when they're looking for food, and they dive vertically from a great height with this wonderful eyesight that they have. And because they're group feeders, it's like a ballet. I think it's the best way to describe it.
When I looked up red kites in modern 21st century terms, one of the main threats to them today is poison by farmers who are trying to run them off of their agricultural crops. Now, you alluded to this earlier by saying that England was also, during Shakespeare's lifetime, afraid of the red kite's impact on their food sources, which is presumably also agriculture and crops. And I wonder, I mean, I know you said it's a large bird, a 5-foot wingspan is pretty significant, but are they capable of being this large interference in agriculture on some kind of mass scale that way?
No, they're not. They are a large bird, but the size of them is in the wings and the tail. They actually weigh less than a bag of sugar. They weigh less than 2 pounds.
Wow.
They are true scavengers. They will kill tiny things. They will kill voles. They will take worms. They'll take frogs. But they're certainly not going to take anything like a fully grown rabbit or a fully grown hen, let alone a lamb. I think that the main threat probably comes from people who are trying to protect their game birds. I'm afraid we have a bit of a problem in Scotland because we seem to be a hotspot for poisoning. I suspect it's not aimed at red kites. I suspect they're collateral damage because the sad truth is if you lay something poisoned, you have no idea what you're going to kill.
What's going to eat it, right?
It isn't really crops because they're not eating barley or wheat or anything like that. But there is a great deal of misconception about these birds still. Interesting that, the quotation we looked at from Henry VI, Part 2, it is about a bird killing. They really don't do that. But of course, you try telling people. They wouldn't believe you.
Wow, I can't believe that it's an entirely misplaced reputation that they don't kill it, but they're known for this and even feared and despised for something they don't do. That's kind of sad.
Well, you see, I suppose if you find a big bird, and they do look very big when you come up close to them, you find a big bird sitting on something dead, eating it, what do you assume? You assume it's killed it, don't you? So it's kind of the backwards interpretation of that Henry VI quotation, isn't it?
So Shakespeare seems to have had a good understanding of the bird anyway.
Yeah. Of course, one thing one should say is that in Shakespeare's day, the word kite was also applied to buzzards. They were slightly indiscriminate about their use of this word. So when he talks about kites and when the historical record talks about kites, we're not sure always whether it actually means a red kite or whether sometimes it means a buzzard. So it means a big bird of prey. Buzzards are killers, of course, so that's different.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's very confusing.
Now, Shakespeare's King Lear describes his daughter Goneril as a detested kite, and in A Winter's Tale, Shakespeare's Autoclytus says, quote, "When the kite builds, look to your lesser linen," end quote. This is a reference to the kite's reputation for stealing washing that had been hung out to dry in nesting season, and I suspect we are coming up again on a piece of controversial reputation concerning the bird. But Lynn, would kites really steal a person's clothes off the line like that?
Yes, they do. Yes, we actually in our visitor centre here at our Red Kite Centre, we have a washing line on which we have hung various items that we've retrieved from nests, which vary from some sheep's wool, which they use often to line their nests, to a child's balloon and half a teddy bear.
No, poor teddy bear.
One glove with a skull and crossbones on it. All sorts of things. Yes, they like shiny, pretty things to put in their nests.
And comfortable things, it seems, too, with the wool and the teddy bear.
Things. Yeah. Yes, so it is absolutely true.
Now, you've compared them to buzzards, which the idea that they eat dead things is definitely puts them in that same category. But I get the impression that they are something like airborne flying goats sometimes, because they eat a lot of indiscriminate things. And is it accurate to say that they would eat trash and random objects in addition to their diet of vermin?
I think that they would certainly eat something that looked like food to them. Whether they would get on very well in cities these days with burgers and chips, I don't know. But I've never seen them eat rubbish as such. They certainly are very good at picking up things like roadkill, which sadly, of course, accounts for quite a lot of dead kites because they get run over by cars. But they're inquisitive creatures. They're not particularly shy of human beings, which is not a good thing to be if you're a bird of prey.
Well, they're used to being sort of king of the skies, I think, so they don't feel they need to be shy.
People very often ask me, what is the predator of a kite? And I'm afraid the sad reply is us. We are their predators.
Well, what about their eggs? Did people eat the eggs of the red kites in the 16th century?
I read this question and I've tried to research it and I can find no evidence either way. I'm sorry, I don't know. What is certainly true is that people collected eggs in Victorian times for their nasty egg collections that they kept in their little drawers in their studies. But I can't find any evidence as to whether they would, in earlier times, have actually eaten eggs.
The eggs themselves.
Sorry, I don't know.
Why do you think it wasn't easier to tame the kite and train it to catch the vermin in the same way falcons were used for hunting? If there were some people who thought they were an asset specifically for catching rats and trying to run off the plague-carrying vermin, why weren't they specifically trained to do that?
Well, because I think they very seldom kill anything big. That's a lot. They can't take it. I mean, they are not physically capable of lifting anything very, very large. And indeed, they have very small beaks. They have quite small talons. They have quite small beaks. If they find something dead, they actually need a fox or a buzzard or a bigger predator to go in and open up the carcass. Sorry, I hope you're not about to have your meal.
No.
They need something bigger to open up the carcass, and they will go in behind it. You said flying goats earlier. I think probably the best analogy is a vulture. They are scavengers. They're group birds. They're scavengers. They're opportunists.
In 1999, the red kite was named Bird of the Century by the British Trust for Ornithology. And in 2006, London celebrated as the first sighting of a red kite in the city was made for the first time in 150 years. Does Scotland in general still have this negative opinion of kites? Or how are they working to grow this population of the kites? Are people glad that they're coming back to the UK or a little nervous about seeing them return?
I think at the beginning people were probably nervous because they didn't really know what kites did or what kites didn't do, and there was a lot of folklore and mythology about them, which on the whole has proven to be untrue. There are still people who see them as a threat to their livelihood, and it's always difficult when you're reintroducing a species into the countryside, which is people's workplace and people's livelihood, and anything that people think threatens that livelihood, they're worried about.
Understandably, yeah.
We are the Central Scotland Release Project, and at the beginning it was top secret for the very reason that there was the fear that people who didn't understand about kites and what they did do and they didn't do would threaten them. I think the reputation has improved because I think as people see that they are not a threat to agriculture, to people's livelihoods, that is an improving situation. As I said to you, I think that the large number of poisoning deaths is really collateral damage, actually, because people are possibly not trying to kill red kites, but they are very easy to kill in great numbers. We have a record of an incident in the 1820s in a village a few miles north of where we live, where they laid out a poisoned pony and they killed 180 kites in one go.
Oh, wow.
So it's been 400 years of persecution to try to wipe out this species. And it's been, 30 years to bring them back. So we're doing quite well, you know.
It sounds like it's doing well. I mean, because this hunting of them and what apparently is false reputations about the bird and its impact, they were actually hunted to extinction in the 20th century,
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. They got down to about, we're not sure, 5-7 breeding pairs in central Wales. That was what was left. That was it.
That's almost, I'm just breathless at those numbers. Yes. I mean, you feel like you're holding your breath, hoping that survives and comes back.
That's why.
What's the status of the red kite today?
Well, in central Scotland, we think we've got about 100 breeding pairs, which is in 20 years from nothing is pretty good.
That's
amazing. Sound much, but it is.
Yes.
The population that is in England, just north of, northwest of London, is doing best of all. The last time they counted, they were on 1,000 breeding pairs, and they are well in advance of that now.
That's excellent.
It is excellent. And so there are, 5 reintroduction sites in England, 4 in Scotland, and 1 in the north of Ireland and 1 in the south of Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. So
I'm so glad to hear that there's so much work being done to bring them back. And I know we would love to learn more about them and find out the truth of this bird and what it's like. What are some of your favorite books and resources or websites or even groups that we should check out to learn more?
The books that I think are the classic books about this, 2 of them are written by a man called Roger Lovegrove. One is called The Kite's Tale, which sounds suspiciously like Chaucer, doesn't it? But his big work is called Silent Fields, and it's not just about kites, it's about how from the very earliest medieval times, human beings have tried to eradicate species, and now human beings are trying to redress that balance. So I think those are the 2 really big works to look at. Of course, there's a huge amount on the web. The Welsh Kite Trust is certainly worth a look. Our own website is worth a look, actually, as is the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, which is behind the reintroductions, and they have a huge amount of detail on their site as well.
And we can visit Argaty Red Kites as well. Yes, tell us about that. We
took over the job of putting out a little bit of supplementary feeding from the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, very early in this release programme here. And it became very obvious that people wanted to see the birds. I mean, think we had 20 baby birds released that first year. We had bird watchers like you've never seen. Something had to be done to manage the situation. And so we put in a very simple structure. We put in a hide from which people could watch the birds being given their little snack, and a car park. And now we have a visitor centre, and we always have somebody on duty to tell you about the birds, the story of their persecution, the story of the reintroduction. It's a wonderful thing to do. We meet some fascinating people and we get some fascinating opportunities like this one.
Yeah. That's one. What's the best time of year to come and see the birds?
Well, funnily enough, autumn and winter, actually, which is not the time that people would think about it. They spend the autumn and the winter in big roosts together. And in very hard winters, we can be feeding 60 kites, which is something to see, I tell you.
Worth bundling up to come and see it. Absolutely.
Worth bundling up to come and see it. The welcome's always warm, even if the Scottish weather isn't.
Absolutely. We would love to bundle up and come out there. If you would like to go and visit Argaty Kites, you can find out more about them, as well as the history of the birds on their website and the best times of year to go, including their address and directions for how to get there, and book your own experience with the red kites at their website. It's argatyredkites.co.uk. That's argatyredkites.co.uk. And you can find links to all of this in the show notes for today's episode, so you don't have to remember the URLs. You can just click and go. Find that at casticash.com/episode 99. That's casticash.com/EP99. We ask everyone this next question here at That Shakespeare Life, and that's, what's the one book you would take with you on a deserted island? My friends in England tell me I'm supposed to allow you the complete works of Shakespeare and a copy of the Bible, so your choice would be in addition to those.
Okay, I thought about this long and hard. Do you know, I would take the collected poems of John Donne. Because
that's lovely.
Ever,
I love
ever.
John Donne, and nobody has yet picked that, so excellent choice.
Well, it was that. It was that. Yes. Actually, your friends in England should also have told you that I'm allowed one luxury.
I see. Well, we'll have to update that. What would your luxury be?
Oh, lip salve. Do you call it lip salve in the States? Do you call it that?
It depends on who you ask. It's either lip balm or chapstick is a common
one of
phrase,
those anyway. Yeah, one of those.
Well, the good choices for sure. You'll be well set up on your deserted island. Well, what's next for you? What are you working on now that you're excited about?
Well, we never rest here. We're working on red squirrels now, which don't need reintroducing, but they certainly need encouraging because, sadly, the introduced grey squirrels, introduced many years ago now, the introduced grey squirrels carry a virus which kills our native red squirrels. And so if we're to retain our red squirrel population, we have to nurture them. So we have red squirrels naturally on the farm, and we're working very hard to promote them. We've also got some television opportunities coming up, which is very exciting. We're being filmed for various television programs, and we are very excited to say that we're being included in series 2 of a wonderful program called Born to be Wild, which is about the work of our animal rescue charity, the Scottish Society for the Protection of Animals. And because we are adjacent to their wildlife hospital, and so we're a very good site for them to release things like hedgehogs once they have been nursed back to health. So
that sounds
amazing. Stuff going on. It's very exciting.
Well, please stay in touch with us and let us know where we can watch some of these things. Lynn Bowser, it has been delightful speaking with you today. I know I've enjoyed learning about the red kites and exploring their history. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
As always, today's episode comes with a full blog post where you can dive further into the history of our topic. You can connect with Lynn, as well as find out more information about Argaty Red Kites and how you can visit and see them for yourself. Find all of this bonus history, information about Henry VI Part 1 and King Lear's references to red kites, all packed into the show notes. The show notes can be found at cassidycash.com/episode 99. That's cassidycash.com/EP99. When I first started studying Shakespeare, especially as an American, where the English language is very different on this side of the pond than where Shakespeare was writing, I often mispronounced some of the words that you find in the plays. Like originally I said Gloucester instead of Gloucester. Well, that's why I downloaded Audio Shakespeare Pronunciation app. It's an easy-to-use, straightforward app that you can download to your phone or tablet on iTunes as well as Google Play. And it lets you search any word from Shakespeare, and then it tells you exactly how to say it with a playable audio guide built right in. Audio Shakespeare Pronunciation app is like having a professional voice coach that you can carry in your pocket. Explore all the features of this app and download it right now at cassidycash.com/Shakespeare app. That's cassidycash.com/Shakespeare app. Don't forget to come back next week as we celebrate our 100th episode here on That Shakespeare Life. We would love to have you celebrate with us, and I'll have a special gift just for you. So make sure you come back again. That's it for this week. I'm Cassidy Cash, and I hope you learned something new about the Bard. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to That Shakespeare Life. As always, the best conversations happen after the episode over at CassidyCash.com. Become a part of a vibrant Shakespeare conversation by adding your voice over at the website. Until next time, remember, when you want to know William Shakespeare, you have to go behind the curtain and into That Shakespeare Life.